Chevy Beamers and minivans, over 600 cars, trucks, SUVs. Are you listening, man? Let Eastern Motors put you in a car today. Let Eastern Motors finance it all the way.
All right. Good afternoon, evening, day, whatever you want to call it. We are live after some of the most insane lacrosse I think I've ever seen in my life. I don't really know what to say. I don't know that I'm ever going to kind of figure out what to say here on this program, but we're going to give it a shot and we're going to give it a rip. And I'm just going to safe good afternoon to you. Hope you're well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm just gonna hand the mic over. Ryan fucking riff. Sorry, Jesus. Go ahead. We're live. Ryan, it's all you. You got it.
You had the Danzig clip, the CZW one.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
Jake.
All right, I might have it. Yeah, I think I got it. Hang on.
Do we have the CZW clip?
This is Robbie Marino, CZW with Zandig. Oh my God, what the fuck just happened?
What do you mean what happened? What are you, blind? Jesus! There was 5 of them! It took 5 of them! Justice Payne! Hate Club! The Hate Club's dead! Nick Gage! Nate Hatred! Who do you think you are? Nobody does this to Zandig! Nobody does this to White Beater!
All right. I think that was Ryan basically after the game went final. So I don't even know. Ryan, it's all you. It's all you.
That game was so insane. What's up?
It looks like you had an F1 car, or you have just like a sunroof or something. Like it's just.
No.
It's great. Like the sun is out. You're looking good. You're happy. Like this is a great day, right?
This is incredible.
Yeah, I got suicide doors on the Hyundai Kona. No, I don't even know how the hell to feel about that. We just made the Final Four, but just like the roller coaster that game was.
You should feel happy.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm speechless. That was the most insane. I was here in the press box for Notre Dame Albany in 2014, and I didn't think I would ever see a game as insane as that here at Hofstra in a quarterfinal. That Syracuse-Princeton game, Gary Gate, Matt Madeline, you need to schedule this game every year like the good old days. There is no reason why Syracuse and Princeton shouldn't be playing every year after what just happened today. That is the best lacrosse. If you ever need to introduce someone to the sport of lacrosse, you're putting that game on. You're firing up ESPN Plus and putting on the replay to that. Tough one for Princeton to lose, but full credit to them. Syracuse, just both teams, I know the defense was optional, but just played their hearts out and just gave us the most insane game I've ever seen. And that's not to sell the Richmond Cornell game short either, because that game was nuts too.
Yeah.
Just what a 5.5 hour stretch of lacrosse. I don't think you're ever going to see a doubleheader like this again. If you ever want to introduce someone to the sport of lacrosse, put on today's doubleheader before you tonight and have them watch ESPN for the next. Ohio Penn State's got potential to go nuts. You never know what Georgetown pulls off something miraculous.
The crowd tomorrow. Sorry, go ahead, Ryan. What
was it? They didn't announce the crowd at Hofstra. How much get here?
It was. I mean, it looked packed. I'll check and see if I can. I'll look it up right now. I know that they announced. Yeah. They sent an email out that they've already pre-sold 10,000 tickets tomorrow. So it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be off the chain tomorrow.
The first game was so insane that at goal line extended, on the press box side, usually neutrals could sit there. Cornell blocked out the entire left-hand side of the stadium, and Richmond was making their way towards the right as well. So just the first game alone was nuts.
All right, this is surprising. It looked and felt like more people were there, but Patrick Stevens, I don't know what we want to call it, blue skied it at 8,209.
Really?
I guess because the end zone didn't have a lot, but it did feel like a lot more.
It looked like a lot more. It's the first game, the Cornell-Richmond game, that was really filled out on both sides. And then it obviously was packed on the press box side. So I don't know. Yeah. I thought it was more. I thought it was 10,000 at least. But I mean, still, like 8,000 is a good crowd. And you had an incredible, I mean, yeah, Mark says that there have been some incredible Hofstra quarterfinals. I mean, 2019 was, so that will live long in the memory. 2021 was, granted, 2021, the first game was a blowout. But the Carolina Rutgers game was pretty spectacular. Yeah, I mean, you had the 21 quarterfinals at Notre Dame. That was the Loyola Duke and Notre Dame Maryland ones. There's been some classic quarterfinals. For a 2-hour or 2-game, 5-hour stretch, I don't think I've ever seen anything better than that. That was, I mean, it's recency bias, but so obviously, I mean, that Syracuse Princeton game is just that. I mean, I don't know what to say. That was, I really. Genuinely, I'm kind of speechless. That was insane. It felt like lacrosse in another dimension or something. I just the last quarter of that. There were 10 goals scored in the last quarter of that game alone. And I mean, that was kind of the game. The first quarter was what 6-5, 6-5, something like that. Yeah. So that was the game, but.
And the difference maker is limiting Princeton to, 2 goals. Almost shut out Princeton in the third quarter till the final minute. That's what won the game. Was Princeton not converting on that 2-man advantage because they botched up the faceoff.
Yeah, Princeton had a lot of, that was something. Princeton had a lot of ground balls on the faceoffs in the fourth. I mean, the faceoffs were at one point 21-14 Princeton, and I think Cuse won the last 4 or 5 faceoffs of the game.
But the one before halftime is the one that decided this game.
Yeah, I mean that's one you're going to look back on for sure. I tweeted out, I don't know if they told McMeekin or not. I hope they did. I mean, either way, it didn't work out. McMeekin needed to muck that faceoff up and just tie it and just play for the man-up face-off after the half. And Cuse being able to win that face-off, there was just no reason. There's nothing that there was nothing that Princeton was going to gain from winning the face-off in that situation or trying to play to win the face-off in that situation. The percentage is just too low. You're not going to score a goal. Yeah, maybe you get possession, but again, you can play for the next one after the half. Man up. And losing that face-off and Mullen getting it meant that Cuse could kill off essentially all of the penalty. Then Ippoliti makes a save on the man down, and Cuse goes down and scores in the next possession. And that was the third quarter is the best quarter lacrosse Syracuse has played all year, and maybe in many a year. Honestly, I say, especially in the tournament, Princeton looked dysfunctional. They were really, the physicality really got to them. A lot of dodging into double and triple teams. And that's the one quarter where it worked for Syracuse defensively. And it got the job done.
Yeah. And the incredible thing is, though, Princeton looked gassed. And then the fourth quarter, they found another gear. I thought for sure Syracuse was going to blow that because they were in the process of doing it.
Gil asks, "Is the recency bias to say the best game I've seen in 5 years?" Dude, I mean, if you said that was the best lacrosse game you've ever seen, I mean, sure. I mean, we've seen some good ones, but I mean, last 5 years, I would say it's the Maryland Virginia championship, that Penn State Duke semifinal. Safe was at that one. That's probably the two that I think of that come to mind. That's one of the best games. That's in the inner circle of best games I've ever seen. I mean, look, the defense wasn't good. And the goaltending was non-existent. The goaltending was good for about 3 quarters, and then it just like vanished, except for McCool making 2 saves. I mean, that's kind of at the end of the day, this game was going to be last team to have the ball wins. And I mean, Princeton did have it last, but McCool made a stop, and then McCool made, I think, a save before that. I think McCool made 2 stops,
and that was it.
And and Syracuse won, I think, 3 to 4 faceoffs at the end, and that was basically the game. I mean, Syracuse had 3 freaking pipes on 1 possession.
Yeah,
I've never seen anything like that, and that could have obviously come back to haunt them.
I did see something earlier. Remember the first game. Remember the first game?
Yes.
Cornell had 5 shot clock resets, and they scored on 0 of them. And they still won.
That they didn't score, but Cornell won the game in that moment. I don't think Cornell wins the game maybe they do. I don't know. I think Richmond lost 10 minutes of the game after that stretch, because they started fumbling the ball and having failing clears, and then Cornell came out charging in the 4th quarter, and then Richmond did get it back down. They kind of settled back in and had a couple cracks at it, but I think they kind of lost the game in that moment. But yeah, there was so much in both of these games today that I don't know what you. I don't know. Safe, what's your takeaway?
Great, the Cornell Richmond game, obviously amazing, but the swings and the way that looked like both teams were just like on the cusp of like running away from it. In the Syracuse Princeton game was really, I just think, one of a kind. Like total amount of goals as well. Just you said there really wasn't many defensive stops. So like, Ryan, I'm sure that being there must have been just something else. Just having, thinking that you're up 4, it really looks like maybe you're kind of running away with it. And Princeton goes around, scores 5 goals in 5 shots. The 4 goals in 2 minutes was kind of reminiscent of what Cuse did last week to Harvard. Princeton didn't have the advantage of extra man for Cuse did. But yeah, just like all of a sudden, just like really the game kind of seemed to like shift on a dime with like 10 minutes to go. It's like 16-16, and then still like there's fluctuations, multiple ties and lead changes. Like it just seemed like it really was, almost like just a race to the finisher who was going to be able to just get the ball last with enough time to take a shot. Still would love to know what happened there at the very end. On the website, like
so I'll say this. If that was offsides, Princeton got hosed.
I was going to say there was like 15 more seconds. Like I got it. There was somebody
not even 15 seconds. But if it's offsides, Princeton should have restarted from midfield. And restarting from midfield with 6 seconds left. Restarting with midfield from 6 seconds left has a chance. They would have had a chance. I'm not saying they're going to win the game. I don't think they would have, but they would have had a chance if they're in midfield with 6 seconds left. I mean, we saw we've seen like 3 half-field shots going in this tournament. So yeah, I don't know what does it say on the website, Safe? Sorry.
No, I was just saying, like, this is one thing I hate about NCAA like tournaments. Like you don't get even the live stats that we normally get.
Here's what I'll ask
and
somebody in the chat.
PDF for the box score is not up yet. I was trying to see the attendance figures in Cornell, but I guess maybe the potential be in the Syracuse one, but that's not up yet.
I'll ask if the chat can do it. Go to the stat broadcast website just type in like stat broadcast on like Google, and they are still, I'm pretty sure, keeping live stats. And the stat broadcast page will probably have it. So if you go to the stat, they'll probably have the play. The NCAA gives you nothing, but the stat broadcast one might have it. I have no clue. I have no idea what happened. I don't think anybody did. Yeah, it feels insane to try and break that game down in any sort of way, because Princeton took the lead at 18-17, and then Syracuse just came back and scored 2 straight goals. Just
just absolute bipolar game. Every 2 minutes it changes from we're back to we're losing this.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. This event has been limited to credentialed media members only. Please enter a passcode here.
I feel like there's a way to get in. Let me see if I can find. But
well, there is a fan. View fans.
Yes, try that. That because it's the same thing.
We're live.
The way that the entire nature of the game, I think, just prevented either team from. It's that, I don't think either team could feel their face in the last quarter. There was just no time to. There's no time to think.
The way I put this, the way I feel like this is that you went out at night, had a few drinks with the guys, and a lot was going on, and it's a blur, and you got to wait till the next morning when you wake up to piece it together.
Yeah,
that's kind of how it feels.
It is
just turnover by Syracuse.
That's it. Turnover by Syracuse with 6 seconds. Where did they turn it over at?
Clarence had my keys good at 16 seconds. And then there's like this, the 10 second, if it was the offsides, like when exactly, I'm still with you. Like, yeah, it'd be even better to be at midfield. I'd be like, even better in midfield with like 10 seconds. Or like, because usually like it's kind of like right around the time. Oh, we got a comment?
So Drexler just put it out. Thanks, buddy. 103 timeout by Princeton. 28 seconds shot by Princeton. Tucker Wade, saved by McCool. 16 seconds. Clear attempt by Syracuse. Good.
Yeah.
16. 6 seconds. Turnover by SU. What happened?
Yeah.
I don't know. The third quarter I do think is where Syracuse won, if only because it's the only quarter of the game where I felt like one team's defense actually imposed their will. Every other quarter, Princeton could not cover Syracuse all game long. It was roasted and toasted for Princeton's defense on that end of the field. And I've never seen this is Syracuse. It's like a dream. 3 years we've been asking, hey man, what is Syracuse going to be able to beat teams off the dodge? What's going to happen when teams force Syracuse to win matchups? Is Joey Spallina going to be able to impose his will on one of these games? And it all happened. Spallina dominates the first half with 4 goals unassisted. And just all game long, Princeton refused to slide. Because obviously, look, on the flip side, when Princeton was on offense, which we'll get to, we saw what happened when Q slid to Princeton all game, except for the third quarter. Go ahead, Ryan. Or, I don't know, maybe it's there. All right.
It's a screen grab.
Yeah,
it's like a Jose. It's the Jose save.
What's up?
No, go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, but one second. Let me get my connection back a little bit. Okay, looks like I'm back. I do want to make a point, though, that you know what this game eerily reminds me of?
Go ahead.
The first Syracuse-Princeton game when these guys were all freshmen. And now it's the coming out party. And now I feel like for a big game, this was the coming out party for these guys to have their best performances of their career. Did that go through?
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, there's so much about this game that just is hard to it's hard to compute. If you said Princeton was going to win the faceoffs, you'd say Princeton was going to win the game. And if you said Princeton was going to win the faceoffs at one point, they're up 21-14. You thought they were going to win the game. If I told you that Joey Spallina is going to beat Colin Mulshine to the rack 4 times, you'd say Cuse is going to win the game. And like not close, or 4 or 5 goal win. And yet we wound up in this. It kind of like the Cornell-Richmond game in that respect. If you told me that Cornell was going to get 5 saves or whatever, they got to say they lose. If I told you that Richmond was going to have how many fewer possessions they had, I thought the game would have been a blowout. Just insane. But yeah, Princeton couldn't guard Cuse all game off the dodge. They just couldn't. When Syracuse needed to go to the rack and get a score, they could. On the flip side, Princeton got so many good looks in this game offensively. I mean, as many good looks as they got, they missed just as many, it felt like. But in that third quarter, Syracuse stayed home a little bit more. They were a little more on time with their double teams. And Princeton got in a funk for about a quarter, basically. I mean, Palumbo's goal comes with 3 seconds left. And that allowed for Cuse to obviously build the lead where it was enough that they could withstand the Princeton run. And they still had to get the answer themselves. But yeah, I think the third quarter is probably the decider. It was the one quarter of this game where defense played well. It's the way to put it. Syracuse defense played well in the third quarter. And that allowed, I mean, every other quarter is decided by basically a goal or two. I mean, this one, but Princeton won the fourth by 3. But I think that was a key stretch, was the way Syracuse played in that third quarter.
Yeah, maybe middle of the week I'll be able to have some words on that game. Other than, I mean,
you got you, Ryan?
So what's up the scenes, Ryan? What was it like? Going in, like must have been a good amount of people out there pre-game and stuff like that. No, so I mean, we did get enough color from the pictures and everything. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be great. Tomorrow's going to be, rival, like, maybe some records fall tomorrow, Jake. So
it could. Gil said he's going to be there. So I will be there. At least 10,000 of our friends will be there. So yeah, I don't know how the games top this. I mean, I hope they're good. I think Notre Dame, Penn State, as Ryan mentioned, has potential. Ryan just dropped out. We'll see if we can get him back on. Maryland, Georgetown will probably be a slugfest. But I mean, what a day for lacrosse. I mean, I don't know what more you could ask for. The weather stayed great. I know there was looking at rain earlier in the week, maybe as recently as yesterday. The crowds were, number, whatever it might be. The crowds were lively on TV. Great scenes, and just 2 remarkable games. Down fourth quarter lead changes, stuff that you have to. I kind of just see it to believe it. The words just don't do that kind of the Syracuse Princeton game, especially justice. But even that Cornell Richmond game, Richmond having, even after taking that many body blows, still being able to have a chance at the end to win the game was nuts. Gil says that Palumbo, 6 goals. I thought that, and this is something I felt all season, Princeton needed to run with that midfield more. They needed to. Mark says 2019 quarterfinals had 3 overtime games. They did. I think these games were pretty darn just as good. I will say the one game this does, the Syracuse Princeton, they did kind of remind me of that Penn Yale game in 2019, which is one of the great games I've ever seen. All right, we might have Ryan back. All right.
Yeah, so sorry guys. The cell phone temperature was too hot. The show was too hot. That's why I was out for a little bit.
It's too hot.
Yeah. So, in case it does that again, I'll just reiterate my thought that I was in the middle of. One sec, I don't know if I lost you guys again.
No, you're here.
No, we're here.
I'm back. Okay. I will say that I do feel gutted for Princeton. Obviously, if you're new to this show, I have some friends who played for the Tigers program, and I've adopted them as my second favorite program in a sense with that, even as a series.
It's very safe of you. It's very safe of you, Ryan. Adopting Princeton as your second favorite team.
That Princeton team is. I know, but they deserve to have a Final Four run with that group, and I feel a little bit bad for them. But at the same token, Cuse finally getting back to Memorial Day weekend. Man,
Syracuse is back.
Getting back to Memorial Day weekend.
You're hearing it more and more.
That was the goal for the season. It's mission accomplished. Look, and I know this season's been a roller coaster, but this is where the program wanted to be, to get it at least back to Memorial Day weekend. I mean, it's going to be a tough task if they play Maryland, but they've now got this confidence from this 2-week stretch that you could put them down, but they're not out of it. So now you're at the point where you just let it rip and see where it takes you. And, I've been tough on this coaching staff. I know Mark is probably going to point out in 2 seconds that 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I wanted Gary Gates' ass gone. But
not just Ryan.
That's his motivation.
They built a resilient bunch with this.
He was just fueling. It's just fuel. Reverse.
Some
jinx.
people respond to negative reinforcement. I'm just, it's like.
Oh man.
No, but they don't. So many Syracuse teams in the past, even in the beginning of the Gary Gates era, folded when the pressure was on. Syracuse is going to the Final Four because they didn't let getting booed to the locker room down 8-2 get to them. They didn't let these runs that Princeton got on today get to them. They didn't let that 3-game losing streak heading to the ACC tournament get to them. They didn't let that Maryland and Harvard back-to-back losses get to them. What makes this Syracuse team different and why they're playing on Memorial Day weekend, and they hadn't for the past 12 years, is this is a resilient bunch. And that's something that this program had been missing for so long.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else you can really. I think that's the perfect way to put it. That whatever you want to say about this group, they've always played. They pretty much always played hard, and they have they dig themselves some holes for sure. That's happened this year. This was a team that was on the bubble going into conference tournament week, and then they promptly played themselves right off of it by winning the ACC tournament. And this was a team that looked dead and buried against Harvard in the first round. Listen, that we've seen teams before in the past that have looked dead and buried in the first round go on to win the national championship. And Mark's right. Some would argue, at times they play too hard. They can ride a thin line with their intensity and how they play. The penalty we saw, obviously the Harvard game, the penalties. But I think that's kind of the story here too. I mean, McCool's penalty, I would say more just silly that had a bad outcome than I would say kind of a reckless play. Look, you can't stick your elbow out there like that. But that was the one penalty I think Princeton had one man up opportunity Princeton had. And I think the way Syracuse got the first goal in this game, they got down 5-2, but responded immediately, go up 6-5. Look, so much of this, all of these droughts for teams like this, or so much of how we define any sort of season is just how do you play in this weekend? That's why we make so much of the quarterfinals. It's the dividing line for the season. It's what separates. Syracuse loses this game, and there are people who are going to say this wasn't a good season, and that might sound crazy, but that's why it's Syracuse. Princeton. Princeton's going to leave this season feeling unfulfilled and pretty sour because this was a group that had Final Four expectations and hype, and they didn't get through. And that's the way it goes. I look back to look at the last year. I mean, like calendar year, a little more of Virginia lacrosse. Virginia's had a losing season this year and lost like 2 of their last 7 games last year. But they beat Hopkins in the quarterfinals and they got to the Final Four. So it was like that was a successful season for Virginia because that's just how it's defined. And Syracuse, how many Syracuse teams I think that we saw towards the end with Desco and maybe even a little bit with Gate this past year just didn't play their best game in the quarterfinals. In a lot of ways, that is kind of the story. Yeah. I mean, Desco lost 1, 2, 3, I want to say 4 quarterfinals after the last time they got to, even after the last title, they lost 4. They were 1-4, I think, in the quarterfinals. And those were to Maryland in 2011, the only time the 1 seed failed to make the championship weekend in the expansion era. 2015 to Hopkins, where they were a favorite as a 2 seed. And then 2017 to Towson, which kind of became sort of infamous. That's it. Like Syracuse, if you look at a lot of those years under Desco, were still a 1 seed or a 2 seed, high ranked, but they just lost in the quarterfinals, and it became, well, what's going on? And then, of course, things happen after that later that led to the end of the tenure. But yeah, like this Syracuse came out and played. I wouldn't say it's their best game of the year. That was the Notre Dame game at home. But in patches of this game, they played that third quarter stretch, obviously. They played their best lacrosse of the year. And so many of their players played. Spallina played the best game of his career. I would say Carter Rice and Sam English. Michael Leo was great, yeah. Carter Rice and Sam English played about as many minutes of a lacrosse game as you can. That was one of the stories of the day, I'll say. There are a lot of heroic efforts by two-way guys in the heat playing as much as they did. The Richmond, who's a Packard, Charlie Packard thing for Richmond, that dude played an unbelievable lacrosse game. 2 ways. Sam English played 2 ways. Carter Rice plays a lot for Cuse. Cooper Mueller for Princeton had a bounce shot from like 15 yards go in to tie the game. Gil makes a good point here. Yeah, there were a lot of these today. Rarely you see so many games where like a missed shot behind the cage would go right into a guy's stick. Princeton had 1 or 2 as well, but Cuse had the Spallina one. There was a big one, Spallina, where he kind of saved it and Princeton was kind of unsettled. When the game got unsettled, it was for both teams, but Cuse got a couple goals off like that where things got really unsettled and they capitalized. As Gil mentioned, the skill was just preposterous. The skill.
Bonanno score, the one-handed grab, like scoop ground ball, the one that where he hit McCool, then got the penalty. I thought that was just so smooth, but like.
Palumbo too.
The Palumbo was like the Jordan switching hands against the Lakers thing. Like I haven't seen that since Jake Byrne. You know, like just so smooth. Just the skill level. That's one thing about this Syracuse team. They got many strengths, and on any given Saturday, like they'll, lead with multiple other the offense, face-off's good, defense is tight. But, throughout the season, just like sometimes difficult to get all their fastest in the high gear. You could pick points that they're off today, but Mullen not doing that as great as at the dot as he did against Harvard last week. Obviously, not that great at goal for either team, really. Give the score, but yeah, Brian, we were talking about resilient, like that. That really, I think, is the best word for this team because they will find ways. The lull that they had the 3-game losing streak. That happens to many teams. If you're not like Maryland or Notre Dame, these legendary years they've had in the last 4 or 5 seasons. But just being able to find a way to win when you're not doing that great at the dot, or when maybe goaltending is not going to be look to be a strength today, and it's just being able to find ways to win. And got to give it the Gate. He got
the job done.
Got it. That's it. That's all that matters. Get there. And I'm sure this gave a lot of anxiety to Q's fans, like our boy Ryan in the stands. But they got it done. I mean, that's going to be maybe like that. I feel like this team they can ignite, and then just really kind of pop off. You can really see that at the Dome, they kind of feed off the crowd. But just I was really impressed. Not that it's a hostile territory on the island. So there was a lot of orange. Yeah, but yeah, neutral site, kind of thing that the swings, the runs that are in here, on both ends, kind of easily kind of lose your place and just be we just had this 4-goal lead that just kind of evaporated in 2 minutes, and then just kind of lose yourself. But yeah, just being able to find that calm and being able to calm yourself and just kind of seeing it through. I'm not a Syracuse alum, so don't know exactly where to put this Final Four run, especially a school with so many. But yeah, this is a unique team that's got a kind of a really fun personality to it, and but I'm happy to see them, kind of break through and get here, especially given the expectations many had for them and the expectations they had for themselves going in. So always good to see somebody achieve their goals. So happy for you, Ryan.
I've never seen Ryan so happy.
Yeah, and it's such a rootable group of guys too. All my concerns this year have been on the coaching end, not with the player end. You got a good group of guys, no egos. They are all in this together. Even though Spallina was the one as the number 1 head recruiter, he's the best team player. They all work as a cohesive unit, and it's been really fun to see, especially after so many years of just the turmoil that was going on behind the scenes and things like that. To have a group of guys that love playing for each other and play for the logo on the lid and the name on the front of the shirt, but do it in a way too that shows off their personalities as players. I mean, that's the one good thing that I like about what Gate's been instilling is having that confidence. And I know it's kind of overhyped to say in the NIL era, but kind of having your own brand and having each of these guys put their own stamp on the program in their own unique way, and putting it together like a good rock band, where you have the lead singer or the guitarist or the bassist and the drummer. They each, have their individual strengths, and you put them together and it provides some awesome music. I think that's kind of what you see with this Syracuse team. You got just an all-around good bunch of guys. Before the game, they were hanging out waiting. They're taking pictures with kids that asked them. They got a good, they all got good heads on their shoulders, and you see it on the field. It translates to the field where they have that individualistic swagger to have the confidence, but at the same time, they never lose sight of being that cohesive unit and playing for something bigger than them.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's Syracuse. They're probably, you could argue, the brand in the sport. And that Final Four drought had defined the program. There's not a lot in lacrosse that look, for a lot of teams, if you had a 12-year Final Four drought, I mean, Hopkins has one, and obviously it gets a lot of play. I don't think it got as much play as Cuse's did. There's a lot of teams where if the programs, Princeton was out. Princeton missed the Final Four for 20 years, and it was like nary a peep. And Princeton has 6 national titles. So.
Yeah, and to give credit to Princeton too, they're in a similar bunch. A lot of great guys that play hard for the Tiger Stripe fee. That's what made this game so fun. Is you got two teams of guys that just selling out for something bigger than themselves.
Yeah, it's a tough one for Princeton. They'll have a lot of guys coming back, and they will have just as good a shot, I think, next year to make it. They're young at a lot of spots, but as we've seen, you never know. This was certainly had the makings. They tested themselves from the beginning of the season. They played an incredibly tough schedule. They never really tripped up at any point. I mean, they lost 4 games this year to. There's a chance Princeton's going to wind up with 4 losses this year to all 4 Final Four teams. That's a decent chance. That's what winds up happening for this group. And
they beat the 4th if it's Penn State.
Yeah, that's true. That in the end, I mean, that's just kind of the story for this. Yeah, the regular season losses to 1-1-2 in RPI. Ryan mentioned it for a lot this season. Princeton against their rivals, and the Cuse thing. I mean, look, if you're a Princeton fan, you're probably thinking, Jesus, like it is a little. It's kind of like me with Virginia, I guess, with Maryland fans with Virginia. Even after they left the conference, they got back. There were still a couple of the Virginia tough ones that Virginia inflicted upon them. But this is, I think this is what's going to follow this Princeton program for now is you're very close. They are very, very close. But right now, there are just a couple teams in front of them that they can't get past. And as Ryan, we've talked about all year, if you're going to get to championship weekend, you're probably going to have to play these teams. And it's Cornell that has been the team in the Ivy League the last couple of years, winning the Ivy League regular season, won the tournament this year. They beat Princeton, I think, 5 times in a row now. And it's Maryland in the non-conference who you play every year, who you might have been able to have a chance to beat next weekend. But they've lost how many in a row to Maryland? And now it's Cuse, who you obviously historically has been a tough matchup over the last few years, but also now Madeline's 0-2 against Cuse. So that's the bar is right in front of them, but that's the good thing. They're going to see all these teams. They'll see Maryland next year. They'll see Cornell again. And I have a feeling they'll probably see Syracuse again very, very soon. Maybe not next year, but pretty soon.
I have a feeling that with just a sentiment already, my good pal Jimmy Davis texted me, the rivalry is back. I think the appetite is going to be completely there for Princeton and Syracuse to bring back regular season matchup after this, because there's going to be just way too much buzz from this game to not have them back on the schedule. They're going to find a way to get back on the schedule after this.
Yeah, I think you have to.
So that's, I think, the bow on that. I'm just about to get home, so what do you say? I'll hang up now. I'll fire up the computer when I'm back in the room, and we'll chat a little bit about Cornell Richmond.
Awesome. Great stuff, Ryan.
Which if it weren't for this game, would have been the one that we would have been talking about for ages as well. So looking forward to talking about that in a few minutes.
All right. See you in a few, buddy. Mark's calling me out here. Says, Jake, a regular season game in Atlanta had more today than the quarterfinal at Hofstra. Don't give me this Southeast can't host quarterfinals anymore. Fair, harsh, but fair. What I will say is,
Mark, what was the ticket price? Just wondering, was it like $25, $30? Or?
I think that what I will say is, one, that was a pretty unique. I mean, that was number 1 versus number 2, Maryland and Notre Dame. And I'll also say, I just think this kind of says that Hofstra's kind of been like, I just think they've tapped that well a little too much. It hosts every year. At a certain point, even if it's Cuse and Princeton, Gil, $50.
$50 for the Atlanta ticket? That's a Corrigan, right?
What the hell? What the hell did they think this was? The Final Four?
Was that a Corrigan tour?
My reaction to that is legitimately the Chris Tucker in Rush Hour. $50 million. Does she think she is Chelsea Clinton? $50. That's Gil says it was 27 for Annapolis. I think Ryan said it was in the same ballpark. But listen, that's fair. I mean, if they put in Atlanta, and if I'm not going to complain, we'll see how it does. I think tomorrow's going to do a lot for if they hit 18,000. The movement to have Navy host the Final Four is going to be like probably off the chain. They're going to really be pushing for that. Maybe this might be what we need to push the season back.
I was going to say, isn't that the whole?
That's the whole thing. Commencement. They have commencement that weekend. Arts Development says, I feel more confident that Penn State can beat Notre Dame after I saw today's games. Anyone can beat anyone. Yeah. I think that's I think that's there's reason if you're a team left in this field, if you were a team that scored Richmond, we saw it. Richmond lost to Cornell by 2 goals combined in 2 games.
Yeah.
Like, they were there. And I asked, is Princeton ever making it back to the national championship? This roster was stacked and they still couldn't get to a Final Four. I just think it's what we just talked about. Safe, what do you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, still doing well recruiting, still got a great coach. Jake knows I love I love Mitchell. I love the staff. I think, falling to Cuse the way they did is going to be, difficult to take. It's kind of similar to, the UVA Hopkins game last year. You just play all out and just, fall just short of being able to play one more week. Yeah, no, that's going to be difficult. But yeah, I think I think the Ivy's on the rise. I mean, I think Harvard, I was doing some non-sanctioned recruiting for Jerry Burns that time.
I'm pretty sure you legally tampered. When you said next Harvard face-off guy, Ross
the program. I didn't do it as it's just a guy. But any connection to Harvard, maybe tampered for sure. Yeah, but no, I think the Ivy's on the rise. But I think Princeton is well positioned to go forward. If anything, this season just kind of just showed them. I mean, they're getting doubled up by Cornell. That's this maybe just one of a kind team, kind of similar to what we've had with Notre Dame. Maybe you can quibble a little bit about Notre Dame, Cornell's schedule, but this may end up being just a a generational team for Ithaca. With one loss to Penn State in overtime. If they win out, everything. So and then they lost to Maryland, and I'm talking about Princeton now. So they're right there. They're losing to the top 2 teams in the country. Changing seeding, maybe they just have a different Elite 8 opponent. Maybe, who knows? But I definitely think Princeton won't take much. Maybe I just think too highly of Madeline and the staff there. But just the way they recruit, I just think they're going to be right in the mix. And Final Four is, I don't say incoming, but I think they're going to be in a position to get into that last conversation, or the final conversation as we call it. So they're just outside. And they already did it in 2022 is a little bit ahead of schedule.
That's the big thing. Yeah, they at least know they can do it. If they hadn't done it in 22, and then you have this loss after the couple first round losses, I think you're at a point where you feel a little bit. Is it going to happen? It can happen with this group, and I think the tricky thing is. It's just that, look, we know how fleeting this stuff can be. If you said in 2009 that would be Desco's last national championship, he'd only make one more Final Four, people would have said you were insane. Safe, I'm sure, same with you and with Hopkins in 08 or even 2015. You didn't think that was going to be the last run. So it's just freaking hard, man. It's just really hard to make. It's just really hard to make Final Fours now. It's a little. This year has been a little more open, as we talked about. You have a 6 seed that's in the Final Four. You got a chance tomorrow for 2 unseeded teams to make it. Granted, those unseeded teams are Georgetown and Notre Dame, and I think that is something that's kind of worth. Mark paid $56 per. Jesus Christ, that's nuts.
We said never even more impressive.
Yeah, honestly, shout out. Yeah, hey, listen, man, Atlanta. Look, you got to volunteer. Look, you got to volunteer to host. I mean, that's a big thing, you know. Everyone wants the Final Four back in Baltimore, and then Baltimore themselves is like, yeah, you know, I think we're okay. I mean, that was Maryland. Maryland.
Fine with the present arrangement right now.
Maryland, College Park. Look, if the NCAA could put the Final Four in College Park every year, they do it. But then College Park was like, yeah, our people want vacation on Memorial Day weekend. They want to go to the beach.
No,
so we'll see.
Sure.
We'll see. But yeah, it's really hard. I think we're in an interesting, you know, moments right now in the sport. Mark DM'd me earlier that from like 2010 to 2017, an unseeded team made the Final Four like 7 out of 8 years. And then there hasn't been an unseeded team make the Final Four since then in 2010, 2017. Haven't been one since then. Could be again tomorrow. But there was kind of a moment there where the parity word got thrown around a lot. And I don't know if that's going to be the case in the future, especially with the NIL and how that's kind of impacted the sport, the rev share house agreement. But I do think that it's not going to get any easier to make the Final Four with how skilled these players are now, how great the athletes are across the board. The skill in that Princeton-Syracuse game was just remarkable. We got a good house in here. We haven't told you guys this yet, but if you like this show as much as you like the games today, Safe, what should they do?
They should like this pod. They should subscribe, and I think they should also turn on their notifications just so that they get noticed in the future. So just 3 things we could do.
Yes, definitely smash the like button. Definitely subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. And turn notifications on, even if you are subscribed and you haven't already. All right, Safe, anything last on Princeton-Syracuse?
No, just an amazing game. Way to close out the first half of quarterfinal weekend. So I'm looking forward for tomorrow, but it's going to be tough to top. Just 2 absolute gems that we got lucky to witness.
All right, Cornell Richmond. Where do you want to start with this one? I mean, again, a great game, great drama, late last possession finish that now feels immensely overshadowed by what we saw in the second game. But that was a crazy game. I tweeted out, that was a 15. If Syracuse-Princeton was Hagler-Hearns, now it went long. The game went for, obviously 60 minutes. Hagler-Hearns, if you're not familiar, is like the most famous short fight of all time. It goes like 3 rounds and they just empty the tank on each other. But Syracuse-Princeton felt like Hagler-Hearns. It was just absolute carnage, relentlessness for 60 minutes. Cornell-Richmond felt like a 15-round fight. The body blows in that game.
It's so funny because, I remember us talking in the DMs with the guys, and they made the point again where you were like, I guess 3 to 4 minute span where Cornell kept getting shot clock restart because they were getting the rebound on, just kind of bombarding Richmond. And it obviously took a toll on defense, just kind of the gas. But it was because a part of me was I thought it was this is the moment where I was if they win, I was this is the one that they're going to point to, being able to withstand that. But the thing is, what we've kind of talked about, especially when you're the underdog, the more time that you can just kill and like, or make them like take to score. Like it's because I was thinking, I was like going into the fourth quarter, I was like exactly where you're saying, like, yeah, the drained Richmond, but I was like, they still got out of that quarter with the lead. And I was just thinking to myself, it's like, if they could just hold Cornell from scoring, the equalizer until like 10 minutes, just like as long as we could just like take time off the clock, and then Cornell scores, 46 seconds, less than that, 36 seconds into the fourth and tie it up. Is the way that like teams can really just increase that pressure by being able to score like quickly. I think that just what was difficult for Richmond here. Like they did well. Like I think it lived a bit of a charmed life. I think it was like 7 pipes, maybe
the
8.
Goalpost. They're gonna have to repaint the goalposts. I mean, thank God there's no more games at Hofstra this year. The goalpost got worn out.
Not to take away from Richmond's goalie, who had a great week in the butcher's name, but yeah, like gave him a shot. Even at the very end, like where kind of thought like Cornell was just gonna steal this one. Richmond, I feel like disappointed to again. Like I think like losing at this round is so difficult because we were talking about last week. Like losing in Final Four weekend, like you just get kind of swept in because everybody's a loser, but for the team. But like you or whoever wins the games on Saturday, it doesn't really matter if you don't win on Monday. But like losing here, like I was devastated. Like I was lost last year to UVA the way they did, and then sure sting for them. But I think this was just such a major leap of a season for Richmond. Like just throughout this regular season, had close moments with like big teams, and we're kind of wondering like, oh, they're gonna be able to pull it off. But I really see that this year it's like, if anything, like kind of cements like what Chamati's doing in terms of like doing it their own way. Like we're making our own power here. I think that being in Virginia is such a fertile state for recruiting, and so I think that's helped them being able to schedule teams, because I think that's why teams like Nova and the Richmond and the St. Joe, like they're able to get teams a lot because teams want to be in Philly or Virginia to like recruit or like to for the kids who are on the team so that the family and friends can see them play. But so like Richmond has a lot of natural resources, but just the way that Chamati's been able to just like kind of build this brick by brick, and like this was a major accomplishment to get to this round. Like one more, even better. Cinderella season, but it's just like if anything, like.
Can I hold you there? Yeah. I think the best thing you can say about Richmond, the biggest compliment you can give them, is that it wasn't a Cinderella. Right. It didn't feel like, and I don't want to not. I don't know. It's hard. Like UMass in 06 was kind of was a Cinderella, but UMass also was a program that had been to the tournament a lot. And so that's it. I don't know. I think we've seen Cinderella runs, or we know what Cinderella runs in like the basketball tournament look like. I just think the best thing you said with Richmond was they felt in both those games they belonged. Yeah. And they didn't feel like they never felt like they were playing out of their head.
They've merited this position. Like 100%. This is a solid program, and not like just kind of just a perfunctory way you kind of say, like this is a team that like now not only is like conference tournament a part of their like goals, like it's Final Four, and I don't know how many mid majors where you could like really say that are they going to be in there year in and year out? Who knows? I mean, it's like they were supposed to have a little bit of a dip this year, and then able to like get even further than they've ever been. Like, I just think the world of Chamati, and just like being able to say we built it ourselves, like it's just a great feeling. And I'm sure for them, everybody's associated with the program and the university, to be on the stage, like now people were like, oh yeah, Richmond, like not in the same breath as Maryland or Virginia, but like a problem. Like I think like if you are Maryland or Virginia, you're like, oh yeah, and I think like they have this base that they can just like that they built themselves. That like that's why they're so strong. Like as a as a program. So, yeah, hugely disappointing to lose today. I mean, no sugar. There's no more victories, as we always say. But definitely a successful season. After the heartbreak from this wears off, I think they're going to be able to look back and just be extremely proud of what they were able to accomplish, and just the people who are returning next year to be like, oh yeah, we're going to be in this mix. We're a team of note that they've earned it again, not just from this season, but from everything that they've done. And they just you can't see them just pushing it forward. That's what we said all the preseason. We're like, which one of these teams was going to be able to do that, to win that first round game, and they did it. They did exactly what we were wanting them to do, and they pulled it off. And like I said, next year, who knows where the Final Four is going to be? We still don't know. But next year, they have they can look themselves in the mirror and just be like, yeah, that's our goal. It's to try to get there, try to get here again, and get one step further at least.
Yeah, I'll go real quick on that, Ryan. They're in the zone that very few. You can never really expect the Final Four from a mid-major type team, but especially again, it's tough now. But they're in the zone that Towson was in the past, that UMass at one point was in, Delaware to a degree, where Albany, Loyola's a little different, but I get they kind of are in that mix. Where the expectation is to make the tournament. It's not a lot of teams outside of the top. I don't know. It's a thing where it's like every team's goal is to make the Final Four. No, it's not. How many teams realistically can say our goal is to make the Final Four? I don't know. It's maybe 10. But then there's a few who I think realistically can say our goal is not to have a winning season or to make our conference tournament or to even maybe make the NCAA tournament every couple years. Richmond's goal is to make the NCAA tournament every year because they've proven that they have the capability to do that or be in the mix. And as you mentioned, now it can be to win an NCAA tournament game. Ryan, mute your computer if you're not talking. If your typing is coming through. So that's what I would say is, I think that's where they're at now. All right, now I'll let Ryan go because obviously he was there.
Yeah,
Ryan's on the message boards. I knew it all along. I never doubted GG.
Never in doubt. No, I think this game, boy, Richmond had it. That's what it comes down to. Is I feel like we've been saying all year with Richmond, they were knocking on the door, but coffee's for closers. They just couldn't finish it. And I think the big thing was how their struggles on the clear. That's what ended up deciding the game was Richmond wasn't able to clear. And
I think they were gassed.
They were gassed too by the end of the game.
Was that Napoleon quote I always use at this stage? The fatigue makes cowards of us all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think they had nothing.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that I think Richmond. It wasn't decaf.
They were cooked, man. I think.
Yeah,
it was to me. It was impressive that they actually got the game to that point, because I thought that when Cornell got the lead,
once Cornell goes to a run, they're done. But they hung with them, and credit to them.
Yeah, that was what was impressive.
Yeah, so for Richmond, I know, as you guys said, no moral victories in the Crosse. That's a tough one to swallow, but they've now got themselves a new high standard to live up to as a program, and I think it's this program's in a really good spot. And as long as they have Dan Chamati as their head coach, they can do some really big things. They've got one of the best coaches in the game on their sideline. And that closes the gap between an A-10 team and an ACC Big Ten Ivy team in a quick hurry. And they almost pulled off a few big upsets this year. They beat 2 different ACC teams. So, yeah, as long as they got Chimani, they are going to have a fighting shot in any game they're in. And for the Big Red, I think, as silly as it sounds, you want to have a scare like that before Memorial Day weekend that you pulled out. You want to have a little bit of adversity. It's very rare that you have a run like Notre Dame had last year or Maryland in 2022, where you're not really getting tested that much heading into it. To win a national title, you got to have that moment where in the montage that you have to mount a little. It's the dramatic buildup where they have the where they have the comeback. You see, the old ABC BCS introductions where once you hear the music go dun 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 dun, is the part where they had to make a big fourth quarter comeback against someone to make it to the national championship game. And the most adversity Cornell's had really since the Penn State game was or maybe even the first Richmond game was what, the third quarter against Princeton in the Ivy League championship game. Mm-hmm. So I think now they've got some battle tested. Now they got some confidence heading. If they have a game where things aren't going completely their way, like it has been so much this year, they showed today that they can fight back. So as much as it's a little bit concerning that, the game against Albany, they weren't pulling away from the Great Danes until the second half. Today, they were in a dogfight with Richmond. But now if they're in a difficult situation, they know they have the confidence that they can overcome that, which I think might prove to be important next week when you're either going up against part 2 against Penn State or you're going up against the 2-time defending national champs with Notre Dame.
I think this is kind of a choose your own adventure sort of thing with Cornell. I think you can
whatever narrative works best for you.
Yeah, if you want to be skeptical of them, I think there's room to be skeptical. CJ Kirst does not look like CJ Kirst. I think he's got something going on. Richmond left a shorty on him off a switch the first possession of the game and did not think about sliding. And they basically didn't think about sliding the entire game. Now, I think a lot of that is confidence that Richmond has in their shorties. And Charlie Packard got the assignment often. He was unbelievable. I cannot say enough how incredible he was. He scored 2 goals on offense too. But Kirst just didn't seem explosive. And there's lots of moments this year for Cornell, moments where maybe they have needed to kind of step on the gas a little bit. He's the first guy to do it. He's the first guy to say, all right, I'm going to take my guy to the rack, and they're not going to have an answer. So I think there's that. I think you look at the fact that in a game where they had such a possession edge and a game where Richmond looked ready to go. They were on the ropes, and you thought Cornell they got up by a goal. You thought they were going to deliver the knockout punch, and they couldn't. I think there's still some concerns. Wyatt Nuss was not great today. He's up and down. So if you wanted to look at that, you could say, hey, Cornell, you had 10 more possessions than Richmond. Richmond obviously failed a ton of clears, turnovers. You should have got them out of there. I think that's fair. If you wanted to look at this the way Ryan did, or if you want to say, hey, listen, I don't care who you are, what your record is. If you lose the goalie battle the way that Cornell did today, 90%, 95% of the time in the NCAA tournament, you're going to lose. I mean, Zach Vigue was unbelievable. And Nust had, I think, 5 or 6 saves. That was a significant goalie disparity. And again, I don't care who you are. You could be 22 Maryland. If you lose the goalie battle like that, you're going to be in a fight. And goalie play just covers up everything in May. It can, almost everything. And so I think you can look at it from that perspective as well. And you can look at it from the perspective that they survived, a dog fight. So I think I can go either way. If you want, there is skepticism, I think, that can be merited about them. And to be fair, I don't know that I think it's just skepticism. If you're someone who just doesn't think they're the favorite to win the title, I think, because I was thinking, I mean, after the Ivy League tournament, I think there did get to a degree where people kind of view them as the favorite. And if you want to be like, hey, I don't know. I think that's about all you can say. Look, as we talk about, every team has strengths and every team has flaws. It's about how well your biggest weakness can play. But if you want to be skeptical, I think you'd be skeptical. And if you wanted to if you pick them to win the title, I think you still have reason to think they're going to win the title. I don't know. I could see a lot on the table with them next weekend. I could see them getting against Notre Dame, and I could see it going kind of poorly pretty quickly. If Notre Dame plays the way that they've played at times. I could see them losing to Penn State again. I also could see them having too much for Notre Dame or Penn State, but turning around on 2 days, or not 2 days, 2 games in 3 days, a day's rest, and being out of gas. Because I do think there's questions about the depth of that team playing a second game in 3 days. I could see them winning kind of having maybe a 22 Maryland type deal where they have to kind of survive and get to the finish, especially if Crosse is banged up. So I can see a lot with them next weekend. And to be fair, that you could probably argue, aside from maybe Georgetown and Penn State, I think that any team who makes the Final Four from here on out is, and Cornell, I think people believe naturally Cornell can win the title. Cuse for sure, Maryland for sure, Notre Dame for sure. Maybe those are the only 2 teams where if they get to the Final Four, people would be still a little skeptical. But I don't know if Penn State beats Notre Dame, then and Georgetown beats
Penn State.
Maryland.
Penn State. Penn State beats Notre Dame and looks really good at it. You could maybe chat that on. By the way, holding my arm like this, I realized how much of a farmer stand I got today out in the bleachers. I didn't realize how much of a farmer stand I was going to get. I knew I was going to get one, but I didn't know it was going to be that much until I logged on here.
Yeah, that was. Do we have anything else on this game or any games?
Mark said check your DMs for a sec.
I did. I think it was him showing me the absurd fee that he got charged for the Atlanta tickets.
Oh, yeah, save it up for tomorrow. Jake, how early are you going to get there with all that? Paris posted. How different is it? Like a one road way into the stadium? Like
I don't know. I've never been to Marine Corps Stadium.
Naptown? Oh, okay, I was going to say.
I've been to Annapolis, but I've never been to. I've never seen a game at Navy.
Oh, for sure. That's always like one reason why I wasn't too keen of Naptown for the Final Four. I thought like lack of mass transit.
You're not wrong. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's kind of like you've seen the pictures. It is sort of. I mean, you can kind of walk down Main Street in Annapolis and cover, as far as the campus and everything. You kind of cover a lot of it, and then. I mean, I did like a tour or whatever of the academy, and then you kind of get out there and you can kind of make your way down to the rest of it where the shops are and everything and the water. I mean, all of it's water. It's Annapolis, but pretty quick. So yes, I'm 25 minutes away. So I was thinking of leaving. I don't know. This morning I was thinking like 10:45ish or something like that. Now, I mean, they're saying arrive earlier. So we'll see. I might just like drive into the city somewhere and find a spot and then just walk to the stadium. So like just park on the street somewhere and walk.
Yeah, save some money. Hofstra's charged me $20 for.
No, I'm not. I am not parking. I'm not parking.
The issue is at Hofstra, there's no place outside the stadium you can really. They got some of the off-campus housing around the block, but it gets really packed in a hurry. So you have kind of no other choice but to park in the parking lot at Hofstra.
Yeah, I am parking.
The only thing I've seen of Annapolis, besides like from the stock footage whenever they have a game there or the quarterfinals, I was just thinking, I was like, I think it's Patriot games. Because Harrison Ford's like a teacher at Annapolis, so I don't know like how close of the rendition it is in the movie. I was like, oh, it does look lovely, at least from
Oh, it's amazing.
from that one scene.
Yeah, I was there for a high school trip when we were in Baltimore. We went to Annapolis the second day and checked out the Naval Academy campus and had dinner on the by the water.
Annapolis is awesome.
Oh, yeah. Severn River. Oh, wow. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Annapolis is awesome. I can't wait to be there. I mean, I've been excited all week. Obviously, get to see the Terps. Really excited to see Notre Dame, Penn State. I don't think I've ever seen Notre Dame and Penn State in person. I've seen, I'm trying to think if I have or not. Last year, the quarterfinals, I saw Hopkins, Virginia, Denver, and Cuse. I saw Maryland toss. I've seen Hopkins quite a few times. I've seen Towson. I've seen Loyola. So, I don't
Virginia.
think. I saw Virginia, Maryland. I don't think I've ever seen Notre Dame or Penn State in person. So I'm excited for that. But just 10,000 pre-sold off the rip. The crowd's going to be incredible.
And man, that Notre Dame Penn State game, obviously it's got the first slot because Maryland and Georgetown are the local teams, but man, how about that as an appetizer? That's an appetizer game, and that game could be nutty.
I think it'll probably be the better game. I think it'll be the better game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, obviously you got such a huge Maryland crowd and huge Georgetown crowd going right down US 50 from the Beltway, but. So you make them the second game. But, man, two brand names as the nooner and very intriguing matchup.
Yeah, I think I can see that game going either really a lot of different directions. I mean, the Penn State team that played...
And if you got a game that could go... Yeah, and if it could go a lot of different ways. I said before the game, I was chatting before the game with some friends. There's like 50 different ways this Syracuse-Princeton game could go, and look what happened. So,
yeah, I think that was about as good. If the games are good tomorrow, and we get close ones, I think this will be when you just match up the crowds and the scene and the teams involved and everything. I think this will probably go down as probably the best quarterfinal weekend ever. I'm not gonna say that yet because we've had ones. I mean, 2019 was great. It's a little different. I mean, you had Hofstra for one, East Hartford for the other. Obligatory
East Hartford,
true East Hartford has never been tried. 2021 was the games were awesome, but you didn't really have the crowds and the ambiance.
Yeah, because that was right when everything was starting to open up after COVID, and it was like you had to buy. It was limited attendance, groups of 2 or 4.
Yeah, and you had last year was pretty darn good too. You had a blowout in one of the games, Notre Dame Georgetown. There are some other ones. The 2014 at Hofstra will go down, but the 2014 Hofstra was one game.
Yeah, and Maryland Bryant was nothing. I don't even remember his thing about that Maryland Bryant game besides Maryland won easily.
Yeah, this was 2 games that went down to the last possession and were. Yeah, that Syracuse-Princeton game, I still just don't know. And the Cornell-Richmond game was amazing. It was a great game. It was a heavyweight fight, 15 rounds. But I'll be thinking about that Cuse-Princeton game.
Pete Cornell for Princeton and Syracuse to upstage them.
Yeah.
Go figure. Your 2 biggest rivals have the second game, and they completely overshadow your win.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're in
By
the
the way, you'll be happy to know I got some neutral stuff, like how safe. Loves Rob Lowe with the NFL hat. Oh. I needed a neutral hat.
Did it just say Short Stadium or something?
It says NCAA.
No, it's the championship.
Oh, that's great.
I can even pass this off as I went to the Final Four.
That's
even
great.
Even though I'm not going to make my way up to Foxborough because my 2019 Beth Page black hat's getting a little bit worn out, and I need a neutral hat.
Dude,
it's gray and navy, and it says I could have been in the play-in game at Albany and got this hat. You never know,
man. If the Final Four was in Philly this year, I would have extraordinarily
got a T-shirt.
Oh man, If the Final Four was in Philly this year, I would have performed an extraordinary rendition on Ryan to get him to Philly. Like,
well,
like
now that I discovered the magic of Amtrak, I would have just taken I probably would have taken a hour-long Amtrak ride down to Philly. And
dude, if it was Syracuse, Maryland, and Philly, I would have, again, like one-man rendition team to get around there. Foxborough, I mean, you can count me out, brother.
The Providence excerpt. So, by the way, the branding next weekend is Boston. All the men's teams are going to Boston. All the women's teams are going to Boston. I'm continuing this gag.
It's not
Foxborough is closer to Providence than it is Boston. So next week when I do the thumbnail, don't be surprised if it's a photo of the skyline of Providence.
Beautiful Providence, Rhode Island. Who's hosting? Do they always have like a hosting team?
I think it's Harvard.
Is it Harvard?
I think it's Harvard. Let me see.
I always love that when they
Harvard.
I always love when they play in Philly and the Drexel logo is on the link field. Oh man.
Yeah, let me see real quick. I'm pretty sure it's Harvard as the host. Championship intro. It is venue information. Blah blah blah. Future date.
Okay, so while Ryan's doing this,
Harvard's the host. When it's back in Philly, it's Drexel.
So Mark just sent me the DM. If you go back and look at the last play, two separate Princeton players are pointing towards like midfield to say the restart should be at midfield. I don't know what. I honestly cannot possibly think of what else it could have been except for offsides on Syracuse. And if it's offsides on Syracuse, the ball has to restart at midfield. Again, I'm not going to like make this whole deal about the game all about that one thing, but that's a meaningful thing. Restarting at midfield with 6 seconds left is achievable. It's doable. And restarting with 6 seconds left from full field is a miracle. So I don't know what they did on that last play. At the end of the day, Syracuse got the win. They earned it, but man, we did an hour 22. It felt like 3 hours. I just smash that like button.
Yeah, smash it if you like today as much as I liked being there and liking Syracuse being back in Memorial Day weekend for the first time in 12 years. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're going to do this all over again tomorrow.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll be joining live like Ryan did, but maybe I will. All right. If here we'll do this. Someone had a question, Ryan, earlier. If you guys have any questions, get them at us now before we get out of here.
Yeah. By the way, Mets won in the Subway Series too.
Ryan Marquez, do you want Maryland or Georgetown next week? Which demon do you want to try to exercise?
Georgetown. I want no piece of Maryland's defense. Syracuse's offense has not done well at all against that Maryland defense. Look, Georgetown's playing with a boatload of confidence too. They're playing their best lacrosse in years, and I don't want to tempt fate, but I think the proof is what you saw in February, that past 2 Februaries, that Syracuse plays a great game against Maryland, and it's still not enough. So I don't know. I know this is tempting fate, but I think I would rather play Georgetown just because I feel like I don't know how I know, yes, Syracuse had its best game of dodging it's had in God knows when today. But Maryland just suffocates that ball movement that usually, runs the machine that's a Syracuse offense. So I think I'd rather play Georgetown next week.
I think Syracuse can beat Maryland. I think any of these teams probably beat each other. The one thing I can confidently 100% say for sure is I've seen how Syracuse has won these first 2 tournament games. The game against Maryland will look nothing like that. It will not be 19-18 against Maryland. Syracuse will not score 5 goals in 2 minutes against Maryland. That doesn't mean they aren't going to win. The game this year it was a pretty close game. But that I can promise you with a shout like that, the Maryland game will look completely different. Like Maryland's going to look at watch the film and look at the end, just the craziness and the end and be like, we're going to have none of that. We're just not going to happen. So, and that doesn't mean they're going to win, but when you look at how Syracuse has won these two games, it's been, and the Georgetown game, but I think the Georgetown game would be kind of similar. I think Georgetown would try and make it a physical, and they try and slow it down as well. But yeah, the Maryland game would look nothing like that. It's interesting. I'm thinking of just these.
Oh, we missed out on the Preakness. I totally did not realize. I totally forgot the Preakness was going on.
Yeah. Preakness. Annapolis quarterfinal. Preakness. This is a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic Preakness weekend quarterfinal in Maryland.
It's a classic sports weekend in Maryland.
And a Beltway series to boot.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the Orioles being chapped ass is the only thing killing the vibes. It's always a great sports weekend in Maryland. I'm just trying to think what these teams' records are against teams like left in the tournament. Cornell lost to Penn State, beat
Syracuse,
so they're 1-1. Syracuse lost to Maryland, beat Notre Dame, lost to Cornell, beat Notre Dame twice. So they're 2-2. Penn State is 1-3. They beat Cornell, but lost to Maryland. Lost to Maryland twice. No, they're 1-2 because Princeton's out. Yeah, Princeton's out.
Yeah, Princeton's out.
So they're 1-2. Notre Dame is 1-3. They beat Georgetown.
Yeah, because they lost to Maryland, lost to Syracuse twice.
But beat Georgetown. Georgetown is 0-1. I think the only one they played is Notre Dame. And then Maryland is 4-0. They're undefeated against teams left. They beat Penn State twice. They beat Hughes, Penn State twice, and Notre Dame
twice.
So they have, if you want to look at it that way, they have the best record against teams remaining in the field. I mean, Maryland beat among the quarterfinal teams 6 of the 7. They haven't played Georgetown yet, but they beat the other 6.
Princeton, they beat
Richmond.
Oh,
they didn't play Cornell. They beat Cornell. Okay.
They didn't play Cornell.
6 of like the 5 of the 7, something like that. All right. If you guys got any other questions, we'll tackle them. What did you say?
Yeah. Taco de mañana. Mañana, isn't that like tomorrow in Spanish? Or?
Mañana?
Yeah, mañana.
Yeah, I think I would put Penn State, Notre Dame at 60% Notre Dame. I could see Notre Dame winning by 8. I could see Penn State winning by a couple if they can really dominate faceoffs and Frassian plays well. And I can see a finish like we had today.
Mm-hmm. I think it all comes down to, does Notre Dame have the trademark double-digit minute goal drought? I think that's a deciding factor.
Yeah. And Frassian's the
yeah.
I don't want to say that's like the whole thing, but if he makes 5 saves, no, Penn State's not winning.
Yeah. And I think too, with Notre Dame, if they consistently do what they're doing on offense, Penn State's not going to be able to keep up. But if Notre Dame goes a long period without it, Penn State's going to get a couple goals in, and I think they're going to put in more goals than Ohio State did during the patented quarter last week. Only getting to 3-1 was not enough. Penn State's a team, though, we've seen it all year. You saw it in the Cornell game. When they get on a run, they could put a couple in the cage at once. That might be a little too much for Notre Dame to come back this go-around. I feel like the Irish are playing a little bit with fire with that.
Notre Dame also won't dominate the faceoffs the way they did last week. Reed Gills has been fantastic. Yeah. And, of course, look, Penn State's got to play much better than they did against Colgate. That's for sure. They played the worst out of any team in that first round that was made the quarterfinals. Second game, Maryland Georgetown. I'd probably put it on 80-20. That's not to say I don't think Georgetown does have a shot. I think they do. I think these two teams are so similar. And I don't know if that's what beats Maryland in a quarterfinal, is a team that's very, very similar to Maryland, but I don't know if they're quite as good. I look in the cage. I think Maryland's got a definite edge there. Future Harvard faceoff guy Ross Prince against Maryland. I think that's probably pretty even. And Carroll, Carroll's been incredible for Georgetown. Ryan shouted him out when we did the first round preview, and it was on the money. He had a huge game against Duke. Maryland's going to take him away, I think. It'll be interesting to see what the matchups Maryland rides are. I could see them putting Schaller on Bayman, because Bayman is kind of more of the guy who carries the ball often for them, and he has great speed. So if they push Schaller on Bayman, I could see them trying to maybe say, all right, we'll trust Canfield or Burleys against. Those guys have gotten. Canfield guarded Brennan O'Neill last year, so those guys have had plenty of matchups. I could see Maryland doing that. We'll see how that works. But that's my feeling. I think 80-20 Maryland and probably 60-40 Notre Dame. Mark asks, what is the recent record of the second Final Four team in the championship? It's gotten better lately. Maryland won in 22 and Notre Dame won in the second semifinal in 23. So last 4 years, it's 2-2. In total, I think going back to 2010, there's been 4 out of 14. So, but at one point there was, there's an advantage to it. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Especially, I don't know what the weather's going to be like in Foxborough next weekend, but especially if it's hot, like it was today and features to be tomorrow in Annapolis. But it's been a little more evened out lately. Notre Dame won the game against Virginia and then came back and had much more legs than Duke in that game. Of course, they had the great crowd advantage that day too. So, yeah, it's an advantage for sure, but I think it's been a little less than in the last couple of years. All right. Any other thoughts, guys? Any other questions, friends, before we duck on out of here, get something to eat?
Watch the Winnipeg Jets on national primetime broadcast television. What a time to be alive.
We love lacrosse. We like lacrosse bit, but God, man, after a weekend like that, after a day like that, you really freaking love lacrosse.
I got to get in the shower after this. I'm beat.
God bless. Great. Happy for Ryan. Unbelievable. Just an unbelievable day. And that's why the sport rocks. There's just everything you kind of, Mark said, today reminds us why we watch in February. Yeah. There's so much about the sport that, confounds us. And I think we had that today. Even when lacrosse is even at its best, you still get left with stuff that's like, what the hell is going on? Era says Cornell has the noon game next week. I don't think they've announced it. They haven't announced it already. I don't think they announced the times yet. But I
don't know if it's Syracuse, Georgetown, and Cornell, Notre Dame, or Cornell, Penn State.
Yeah,
Cornell's getting the second game.
Too
big of a brand name with Penn State or Notre Dame in it.
That's if it's
like Maryland, if it's Maryland, it's going to be second. But Penn State and Notre Dame are such big brand names.
AR says it's on the NCAA site. All right, let me look it up. Right now, all I see is just the date.
Yeah, Saturday, May 24th.
That's all I'm seeing. I'm looking at the NCAA bracket right now. I just see.
Let's see the interactive.
Okay. So if you go,
the interactive version has Cornell at noon.
Yeah.
I wonder if they get as the 1 seed, they get dibs on what time that they want to go. But
they do not.
Here comes
Maryland has literally Tillman has literally like publicly said, I don't know who to ask anymore. I've asked multiple times why we always play second. And
guess
I know
what?
why they
Next week they're going to play second.
Oh yeah, Maryland's gonna play second. I mean, I don't have any. I mean, if it was Cornell, Notre Dame, well, like Maryland versus Princeton, I would have maybe told myself a little bit. But Maryland, Syracuse is. I don't know. Well, so, yeah, Maryland's gonna play. Maryland, Syracuse is gonna be second. That's the way it is. I don't have any. Listen, it's part of the deal, man. If you're a brand name school, you're a brand name school. Maryland's. The three big Maryland and Notre Dame are the two big brands right now, and Syracuse is perpetually in that mix. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I think I remember going into the tournament, I was thinking, and look, we still got 5 games left, so there's a long way to go. But I remember going into the tournament, and we talked about with how wide open this year has been. It felt like the tournament could go 2 different ways. You can, because these teams are so volatile. We've seen this year when these teams have not played well. They've not played well. And you kind of worry, well, what if some of these teams just don't play well and we get blowouts? Or I think there was a chance. Well, it's so wide open. All these games are going to be close and dramatic because anybody can win. And I think, fortunately, so far that's what we've got. Like everybody's brought nobody laid an egg today. Princeton and Richmond lost, and that's disappointing. And there were things that definitely they're going to look back on and say, "Man, I wish we did that better." We kind of lost our opportunity, but both those teams played good games today. They brought it. They didn't. And in the first round, you had a lot of teams bring it as well, even losers bring it. Harvard came close. Colgate played Penn State.
Yeah, Harvard, Colgate, yeah.
Like that's been the great thing about this, and I hope it continues. Is that it's a wide open tournament, and that can go a couple different ways. And so far, the way it's gone is everybody's played up to their capabilities so far. They're bringing their best game at the right time of year, and these teams are so competitive that we're getting awesome lacrosse. So an incredible day. I mean, truly just an incredible day. Like this one, you guys sit back and appreciate, and hopefully we get another one tomorrow. So we love lacrosse. All right. Smash the like button.
Subscribe, notifications, hit the bell, ding. When we go live tomorrow.
We'll be live tomorrow, probably same time as so we'll see how long it takes me to get out of Annapolis. It'll probably be similar to Ryan. So we'll see, probably same time. Me and Safe will be back, probably with Ryan at some point during the show for the Final Four preview and predictions. And then we'll be back next Saturday as well. So, all right. Thank you guys. You guys are the best. Thank you for turning along with us. Hope you had as much fun today as we did. Probably not as much as Ryan, but that's understandable.
Yeah.
All right. Enjoy
Stay
this outro.
hydrated because, man, I need a water.
Thank you, Lynch, for president.
Ford, Honda, Chevy, Beamers, and minivans, over 600 cars, trucks, SUVs. Are you listening, man? Let Eastern Motors put you in a car today. Let Eastern Motors finance.